If you are a Laravel developer, I am sure you know about Laravel's collection library. But at the same time, I also believe that many Laravel developers don't actually know about few awesome methods of this library. In this video, I am going to show you how you can use those interesting methods to make your code far better than ever. And at the end of this video, I am going to tell you when you should use Laravel collection and when you should not. So let's get started. As you can see in my screen, we are getting all the users from the database using user model all, and then we are assigning it to a users variable and returning the data. If we run this code, you will show that we are listing down all the data from our database. Now let's say you want to fill this isAdmin field with random boolean data. To do this, what you might commonly do is using a for each loop, you can loop through all the users and then you can update the user using the update method of user model. To make it clear, there is nothing wrong with this way. But instead of doing this, what you can do is you can use the each method of Laravel collection. You might already know that this user all is actually returning Laravel collection. So in this collection, we can chain each, which is a method of Laravel collection, and then we can pass a callback called function user, and then you can say something like user update isAdmin fake boolean. These two code blocks actually doing the same thing, which is updating the isAdmin field with a fake boolean data. But this is using the collections each method, but this is using regular PHP for each loop. So if we just remove this code and we run this application, reload the page, as you can see this isAdmin is true, false, true, false. So it is random boolean data. So now you know how you can use each method of Laravel collection library instead of using a for each loop. Now let's think about another case. Let's say we have all the users and we want to check if every user is an admin. How you can do that? You can do that using every method. So every return user is admin, and it will tell us if every user is admin or not. Now we should rename this user to isAdmin, and instead of returning I would say dd isAdmin and then reload. As you can see, our all users are not isAdmin. What if we only get the user that has isAdmin equal to 1? Then what we can say is query where admin equal to true, get the data, and then for every users that is isAdmin equal to true, we are checking again if the isAdmin is true for every users. In this case, it might not be that useful, but let's say you already have the list of users and now you want to check if every user is admin or not. So you can use this using this every method. Let's check it. As you can see, it is returning true because we only have the user that is admin. If we don't use this every method, what you can do is using for each, you can say users as users, and then here, so I will just get this users variable here, and here I will make a temporary variable isAdmin equal to true, and if user is admin, so if not user is admin, then we will say isAdmin equal to false, and we can break from here because we don't need to check any other user because we already have one user which is not isAdmin, and then we can say that isAdmin equal to not true. So it will do the same thing, but I would say the previous one was much simpler. So instead of using that for each loop and a temporary variable, we can simply use the every method of our Laravel collection. Now again, we have the list of users from our database. As you can see, this is just one collection with all the users. Now let's think about another case. From this list of user, we want to have two partitions, one is for all the admin users and another one is for all the non-admin user. If you don't use Laravel collection, how can you do this? You can use admin users empty collection and then non-admin users equal to another empty collection, and then for each users as user, and then you can say if user is admin, then admin users push user, else non-admin user push user. So this is how you can do it. Now if we print admin users and non-admin users, you can see that you have now two array. One contains all the users that has admin is admin equal to 1, and another array which contains all the users that has is admin equal to 0. But can we simplify this with the collection library? Yes, there is a method called partition. So what we can simply do is you can use partition, and partition take a callback, and in this callback user and then user is admin. So this partition callback should return either false or true. If it return false, it will take it to one partition. If it return true, it will take it to another partition. As our user is admin is already a boolean, so we don't have to do something like equal to true because it is already a boolean. If we simply delete this whole code and we can say return users, and let's see what we have. We have the exact same thing that we had before with for each loop and two temporary variable. Now we can have only one partition method called that take a callback, and in this callback we are simply returning that field which is returning true or false. Another really important benefit of using this callback is I haven't mentioned this yet, but let's think about the other code. So here if you say something like user is admin, so you are writing is admin but your ID is not giving any suggestions. But if you are writing it here, it is giving suggestion. Why? Because inside this callback function your ID already know that the user is an object of user, but here we are looping through users and it is getting from here using user query get. So here the ID has no idea that there is an property called isAdmin, even though in our user model we have the property doc_block called isAdmin, but we are not seeing it here as a suggestion. Why? Because the IDE have no idea that this is a user object, but here it has this idea. So this way your IDE will also help you a lot if you use a closer and then type in the parameter that you are passing into the closer. So it is not only for this property but also many other cases. So that's why I always suggest to use such kind of method where you can pass a callback, and in that callback you can always type in the parameters so that you can use the full feature of the ID. Not only that, if you use any code linter like PHP Stun or PHP Sniffer, those library will also detect that this is a user and this user should have this property, otherwise if it will give you an error. So you can use detect error earlier than deploying the production. Now let's get back to our original code, and if we reload the code, you can see that in our user table we have two fields. One is called salary and another one is called tax percentage. Now let's say you want to get the total net income of all the users. How you can do this? Using for each loop. So using for each loop, you can say users as user, and let's say we have a variable called sum equal to 0. Now what we can do is we can simply say that sum equal to sum plus user salary minus the tax amount. This way we can say that sum is equal to, this way we can calculate the total net salary of all the users. Dump the sum then you will see that the sum is something like this. So we are doing this using our old friend for each loop, but we can also do the same using a method called reduce. So this reduce method take a callback, and this callback actually take two parameters. One is the carry and another one is the user object that we are looping through. You can say that float sum and user. So this sum is initially 0, and then what we gonna do is we can say that instead of plus equal to, we can say sum equal to sum plus the other variables. This reduce method is really cool because every time you are returning the value from here, it will carry forward to the next call. So this way you will get the sum. For example, this will be the sum now, and then if we remove the code, you will see the output is same. So using this reduce method, we can calculate the total net income. So instead of using a for each loop and a temporary variable, this carry variable might get a little bit confusing at the first time, but once you start using it, you will understand. Now let's go back to our original code. If we check this user model, we can see that there is a relationship called company. So if we do something like this with, we already know that we will get all the users with company name. Let's say we want to convert this data to something like user name, email and company name. You can also do this using Laravel Collection. So as we know, this get function is returning Laravel collections. So we can say transform function user and then it will return an array of name equal to user name and email equal to user email and company name equal to user company name. Now if we return the user, you can say that our whole user object is now transformed to this array. I think this transform method is really useful in many cases. These are the methods of Laravel Collection Library that I wanted to talk about. If you found something new in this video, let me know in the comment box. By the way, getting motivated about these awesome methods of Laravel Collection, don't use Laravel Collection everywhere. For example, in this case, let's say we have millions of users in our database. So we get the users from the database and then we are transforming these users to something like this. But the problem is we got all the data from the database, let's say 1 million data, and then we are looping through all the data, which is pretty same as the for each loop. In PHP, we are looping through all the users, let's say 1 million user, and then converting it to an array. This can be a serious performance issue in your application. So ideally, if it is really a large amount of data, don't use collection or any for each loop to loop through all the data. Ideally, I would say try to get the data in this format using the query instead. So before using this get, which is to execute the query, do everything like you can join the company and then get the company name as company name or something like that. So instead of using collection library for a large amount of data, always try to use database query using Laravel Eloquent or even raw query if needed. This way the performance will be much better in your application. But yes, if the amount of data is small and you can already do it using for each loop, but instead of using for each loop, it is better to use these kind of methods which is more readable, and sometimes your IDE will give you helpful suggestion. That's it for this video. Hope to see you in the next one. Happy coding.